The readings made no sense. Dr. Amanda Blackwood squinted at her equipment, watching the quantum fluctuation patterns spike in ways she'd never seen before. Outside her research station's reinforced windows, Montana's winter winds howled across the empty prairie, but her attention remained fixed on the increasingly erratic measurements. Mom, you're missing it," her daughter's voice carried from the station's break room. "Martinez is about to take the championship." "Just a minute, Katie," Amanda called back, her fingers flying over the keyboard. After 15 years of monitoring deep space signals, she knew anomalies when she saw them. These weren't just anomalies. They were impossibilities. The excited roar of the UFC crowd from the break room's television provided a surreal backdrop as Amanda's instruments detected what could only be described as space-time distortions forming in high orbit. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her secure phone. Before she could dial, the entire station plunged into darkness. "Mom," Katie's voice wavered. "Stay where you are, honey." Amanda's marine training kicked in as she moved efficiently through the darkness toward the emergency panel. The backup generators should have engaged automatically. They hadn't. A deep thrumming began to resonate through the building's structure, making her teeth ache. The sensation reminded her of standing too close to artillery fire, but deeper, more primal. Through the observation windows, she watched in astonishment as the cloudy night sky began to part. There was no other word for it. The clouds didn't disperse or break. They separated like curtains being drawn back by an invisible hand. And behind them, "Oh my God," Amanda whispered. 3 massive vessels hung in the sky, their surfaces rippling with colors that shouldn't exist in nature. They were beautiful, terrifying, and absolutely impossible to miss. As if responding to that thought, every electronic device in the station suddenly hummed back to life. "Mom," Katie burst into the room, her tablet clutched in her hands. "The fight's been interrupted. They're saying there are ships over every major city." Amanda's secure line rang before she could respond. She answered it, her eyes never leaving the impossible sight above. "Dr. Blackwood," General Harris's voice was tense. "Are you seeing what we're seeing?" "Affirmative, sir." 3 vessels, approximately 2 kilometers in length each, displaying some form of metamaterial hull technology. "There." She paused as new data flooded her screens. "Sir, they're scanning us. Widespread, high-energy sweeps across multiple spectrums." "Can you tell what they're looking for?" Amanda studied the patterns, her brow furrowing. "This is strange. They seem to be focusing on concentrations of physical activity. Military bases, sports venues, training facilities." She broke off as she realized the implications. "Sir, I think they're specifically looking for places where humans engage in combat or combat training." The general was silent for a moment. "That's not comforting, Doctor." On her primary screen, Amanda watched as the alien scans cataloged thousands of locations: boxing gyms, martial arts dojos, military installations, even school wrestling rooms, each registered as a combat zone in their analysis. "Sir," she said slowly, "I don't think they understand. These scans, they're categorizing every form of human physical competition as potential warfare. They're not distinguishing between a UFC match and a military exercise. And what exactly does that mean for us, Doctor?" Amanda watched as her daughter's eyes grew wide, staring at the ships through the window. The girl's tablet showed the interrupted UFC match, where Martinez lay unconscious on the canvas, his opponent celebrating what should have been a career-defining victory. Neither fighter knew that their display of controlled violence had just become humanity's first impression on an alien civilization. "It means, sir," Amanda replied, "that our first contact situation might be complicated by the fact that they think they've discovered a planet of warriors who fight for entertainment." The implications hung in the air like the alien ships above. Humanity's love of combat sports and martial arts might have just painted a target on Earth's back. Amanda noticed the shimmer in the air near the bleachers, a telltale distortion that most people would dismiss as heat waves. But this was Montana in December, and a high school gymnasium wasn't nearly warm enough for that kind of atmospheric effect. Front snap kick, counter with round kick. Sensei Chen's voice echoed through the gym as 20 children, including Katie, moved through their sparring drills. The tournament would start in an hour, and the young martial artists were warming up with focused intensity. Amanda casually made her way toward the shimmer, keeping her movements natural. 3 days had passed since first contact, and while the Zarkali had established official diplomatic channels, their anthropologists had been granted only limited observation rights. This one was clearly operating outside those parameters. "You know," she said quietly when she reached the last row of bleachers, "if you're interested in the tournament, you could just watch openly. We don't mind observers." The air rippled, and suddenly a tall, silvery figure materialized beside her. The few parents nearby gasped, but to their credit, none screamed. The Zarkali anthropologists' multifaceted eyes shifted through various colors, their equivalent of embarrassment, Amanda had learned. "Dr. Blackwood," the alien said, its translator producing perfectly accented English. "I am Venra. Your detection of my presence was unexpected." "Former Marine," she replied with a slight smile. "We notice things. Want to join me in the front row? Better view of the kids." Venra's head tilted in that peculiar way their species had. "You invite me to observe your young engaging in combat training." Without concern. "It's a karate tournament," Amanda explained, leading the way down. "They're learning discipline, respect, and self-control as much as fighting techniques." They sat down just as 2 children began a practice match. Katie was one of them, squaring off against her friend Michael. They bowed to each other, then began exchanging techniques with controlled precision. "I do not understand," Venra said. "They are friends, yet they strike at each other." "Watch closer," Amanda suggested. "See how they pull their punches, how they check their kicks. They're practicing control, not trying to hurt each other." The match ended with Michael scoring a point. The children bowed again, then immediately started chatting and laughing about a new video game they both played. Fascinating. Venra's scales shifted to a deep blue of intense interest. They can transition from combat to companionship instantly. Our preliminary scan suggested your species was violence-obsessed, but this suggests something far more complex. The tournament began properly, and Amanda watched the aliens' reactions as much as the matches. Venra seemed particularly struck by the losing competitors, who despite their disappointment would bow respectfully and often congratulate their opponents. "In our history," Venra said during a brief break, "combat was purely for survival or dominance. We evolved past it as we became civilized. But your species, you've transformed it into something else entirely. We've learned that the warrior's path isn't just about fighting," Amanda replied, watching Katie prepare for her final match. "It's about facing challenges, respecting opponents, and constantly striving to improve oneself." The final match began. Katie faced a larger opponent, a boy who'd won the last 3 tournaments. The size difference was significant, but Katie's face showed determination rather than fear. "She will be defeated," Venra observed. "Probably," Amanda agreed. "But watch how she fights anyway." What followed seemed to deeply affect the alien observer. Despite being outmatched, Katie employed every technique she'd learned, never giving up, never showing frustration. When she finally lost on points, she bowed deeply to her opponent and smiled. She is happy. In defeat, Venra's scales rippled with confusion. She fought her best against a superior opponent. In our warrior traditions, there's honor in that. Amanda stood as Katie ran over to them, her silver medal gleaming. There's always another tournament, another chance to improve. "Mom, did you see?" Katie noticed Venra, and her eyes widened. "Oh, hello. Would you like to join us for pizza? All the competitors go out together after tournaments. Venra's translator was silent for a long moment. Your species continues to confound expectations. Yes, young warrior. I would be honored to join your victory celebration, even though you did not achieve victory. Katie grinned. But I didn't give up. That's its own kind of victory, right, Mom? Amanda watched as understanding flickered through Venra's multifaceted eyes. The aliens had come expecting to find savages who fought for dominance. Instead, they were discovering something far more interesting, a species that had turned combat into a path toward wisdom. The Mrekth ships appeared without warning. One moment, the morning sky was clear. The next, massive black vessels hung above Earth like obsidian daggers. They made the Zarkelli ships look like toys in comparison. Amanda was in Washington, D.C., briefing the Joint Chiefs on her ongoing work with Venra, when every screen in the Pentagon's secure briefing room suddenly flickered to life. The image showed a creature that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a crocodile, its chitinous armor gleaming under harsh lights. Primitive combat world. The Mrekth commander's translated voice filled the room. Your planet has been selected for integration into the collective. Submit or perish. You have 6 Earth hours to decide. The room erupted into controlled chaos. Generals reached for phones. Aides hurried with papers. And amid it all, Amanda's secure phone buzzed with a text from Katie. Mom, are you seeing this? Before she could respond, Venra materialized beside her, scales pulsing with urgent patterns. Dr. Blackwood, we must evacuate. The Mrekth do not negotiate. The alien stopped, watching the humans in the room with obvious confusion. Instead of panic, the military leaders were already coordinating. Screens showed similar scenes playing out worldwide. Chinese generals conferencing with their Russian counterparts, Israeli commanders sharing intel with Arab nations, European armies mobilizing in perfect synchronization with their former adversaries. Fascinating, Venra whispered. Your species shows no fear. Oh, we're scared, Amanda replied, typing a quick response to Katie. We're just too busy to show it. The next 5 hours demonstrated humanity's unique capability for rapid organization in the face of extinction. Former Special Forces operators from dozens of nations volunteered for suicide missions. Retired weapons designers emerged from retirement with classified projects they'd kept just in case. Military satellites were repositioned with unprecedented cooperation between nations. Amanda found herself in the Oval Office, along with Venra, and a hastily assembled team of Earth's top military strategists. The president, a former Navy SEAL, listened intently as options were presented. The Mrekth vessels are impervious to our current weapons technology, the Joint Chiefs Chairman explained. A first strike would be suicide. Then we think outside the box, the president said. Dr. Blackwood, you've spent the most time studying alien psychology. Options. Amanda thought about Katie's Carrette tournament, about humanity's long history of ritual combat. Sir, what if we challenge them on their terms? Every spacefaring race we've met has some concept of honor combat. Even the Mrekth must have. They do, Venra interrupted, scales flickering with excitement. The Mrekth consider themselves supreme warriors. They might accept a challenge under their ancient codes. A challenge. The chairman frowned. Like what? Single combat? No, Amanda said, an idea forming. Like a tournament. We've been watching their transmissions. They're fascinated by our fighting sports. They think we're primitive because we still engage in physical combat, but that means they might respect a challenge based on warrior tradition. The president leaned forward. You want to challenge an advanced alien race to what amounts to a cosmic UFC match. I want to use their own prejudices against them, Amanda replied. They see us as primitive warriors. Fine, let's show them what primitive warriors can do. The room fell silent as implications sank in. It was insane, desperate, and possibly their only chance. The president checked his watch. 30 minutes remained in the Mrekth deadline. Do it, he ordered. But we do this right. I want every fighting style Earth has to offer. Every martial art, every combat sport, every military hand-to-hand system. Show them what humanity's warrior spirit really means. As Amanda drafted the challenge message, her phone buzzed again. Katie had sent a photo from home. She was in her karate gi, standing with other martial artists who'd gathered at the local dojo. The caption read, "Ready to defend Earth, Mom." Looking at her daughter's determined face, Amanda understood something crucial. The Mrech had made a terrible mistake. They thought they'd found a planet of primitive warriors. Instead, they'd discovered a world where every defeat was a lesson, every opponent was a teacher, and every child knew that the true warrior's spirit wasn't about winning. It was about never backing down from a righteous fight. She just hoped the Mrech were ready to learn that lesson. The Mrech commander's laughter echoed through the UN General Assembly. His holographic form towered over the gathered representatives, mandibles clicking in what his species considered amusement. "You propose trial by combat." The translator couldn't quite capture the mixture of derision and intrigue in his voice. "Such primitive customs still exist in your culture." Amanda stood at the podium, Katie watching from the gallery above. "We propose a test of warrior cultures. Unless, of course, the mighty Mrech fear competing against primitives like us." The alien's compound eyes shifted, focusing on her with predatory intensity. Behind her, Amanda could feel Venra's anxiety radiating in waves. The Tsar Kali had warned them. Nobody baited the Mrech. Nobody. "You understand," the commander's voice grew cold, "that such a challenge, once accepted, cannot be withdrawn. The stakes would be absolute. Victory means independence. Defeat means immediate submission to the collective." "We understand." Amanda maintained eye contact with a massive hologram. "We also understand that the Mrech claim to be the galaxy's greatest warriors. Surely you'd welcome the chance to prove it." Murmurs rippled through the assembly as the commander's image flickered, consulting with unseen advisors. Amanda used the moment to glance at Katie, who gave her a subtle thumbs up. Her daughter had spent the last hour explaining to Venra why humans would rather fight against impossible odds than submit without resistance. "Very well," the commander's voice boomed. "We accept, but with conditions. This will not be single combat. Too easy, too quick. We demand a tournament of styles. 6 matches, different disciplines. The species that wins the majority earns victory." "Agreed," Amanda replied instantly. "But we add one condition. No powered armor, no biomechanical enhancements. Pure warrior against warrior." The commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, their equivalent of a smile. "You wish to face Mrech warriors in their natural state. Your courage borders on madness. But yes, we accept these terms." As the hologram faded, the assembly erupted into activity. Amanda felt a tug at her sleeve. Katie had somehow made her way down from the gallery. "Mom, did you see? When you mentioned biomechanical enhancements," his left mandible twitched. "Just like you taught me to spot tells in karate matches." Amanda hugged her daughter tight. "I saw. They rely on their technology more than they want to admit. But honey, we're still in for the fight of our lives." "Lives?" Venra materialized beside them, scales shifting through worried colors. "Dr. Blackwood, you don't understand. The Mrech evolved from apex predators. Their natural state is still incredibly dangerous. No unaugmented species has ever beaten them in physical combat." "Then we'll be the first," Katie declared with teenage certainty. Amanda watched as the UN representatives huddled with their military advisors. Already, lists of potential champions were being compiled. Special forces operators, champion fighters, martial arts masters. But something was missing. "Katie," she said slowly, "what was it you told Venra earlier about why humans train in martial arts?" "That it's not just about fighting," Katie replied. "It's about finding your inner strength, about getting back up when you're knocked down, about—" She stopped, eyes widening. "Mom, are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Amanda nodded. We don't just need the strongest fighters. We need warriors who understand that combat is about more than victory or defeat. She strode to the center of the assembly, raising her voice over the chaos. Listen to me. We're approaching this wrong. Yes, we need our best fighters, but we also need our best teachers. The Mrekth think they're facing primitive warriors. Let's show them what that really means. Let's show them what happens when every martial art, every fighting style, every combat tradition humanity has ever developed comes together. The room fell silent as her words sank in. Then, one by one, heads began to nod. They weren't just choosing champions. They were assembling a team that would represent humanity's entire warrior heritage. In the gallery above, Venra watched with shifting scales as humans began working together with unprecedented unity. The alien anthropologist was recording everything. But one detail stood out. Every human present, from hardened generals to civilian observers, showed the same expression. Not fear, not anger, but fierce determination. The Mrekth had no idea what they'd just unleashed. The Montana Research Station had become an unlikely warrior's forge. Amanda watched from her office as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu world champion drilled techniques with a Mongolian wrestling master on the mats below. In the adjacent area, a Shaolin monk traded insights with a Marine Corps hand-to-hand instructor. Their techniques are so different, Venra observed, hovering beside her window. Yet they learned from each other without hesitation. How is this possible? Because they understand something fundamental, Amanda replied, checking the latest biomedical scans of their champions. Every fighting style is just a different answer to the same question. How do we overcome a stronger opponent? Below, Katie weaved between the training groups, carrying water and towels. At 14, she'd somehow become the station's unofficial morale officer. The warriors had taken to calling her Little Sensei after she demonstrated a perfect kata during their first dinner break. Mom. Katie burst into the office, eyes bright with excitement. You need to see this. Master Chen and Sergeant Rodriguez figured something out. In the main training hall, the diminutive Tai Chi master and the burly Force Recon veteran were demonstrating a fascinating hybrid technique. Chen's flowing movements guided Rodriguez's raw power, creating something entirely new. That's it, Rodriguez exclaimed. The Mrekth are stronger, but their joints have to bend somewhere. If we combine your lock flow with my takedown. Energy before force. Chen finished, nodding. The ancient meets the modern. Amanda felt a surge of pride. This was humanity at its finest, adapting, combining, evolving. The Mrekth expected to face primitive warriors stuck in their traditional ways. Instead, they'd meet something unprecedented, a fighting force that had taken every lesson from human history and forged it into something new. Dr. Blackwood, one of the medical technicians, called out, "You should see these latest readings from the sparring sessions." The data was remarkable. Each warrior's capabilities were increasing exponentially as they shared techniques. The Israeli Krav Maga expert's efficiency had improved 40% after working with the Aikido master. The Thai boxer's power had nearly doubled after learning weight transfer principles from the sumo champion. They're not just learning techniques, Amanda realized. They're learning entirely new ways of thinking about combat. Mom, Katie tugged at her sleeve, pointing to the observation screens. Look at what the Mrekth are doing. The alien vessels had been broadcasting their champions' training sessions, clearly meant to intimidate. The footage showed massive warriors drilling the same moves repeatedly, focused on pure power and speed. They're not evolving, Katie said thoughtfully. They're just doing what they've always done, just harder and faster. Venra's scales flickered with sudden understanding. Just as they did not comprehend your martial arts tournament, they cannot comprehend this. They see warriors of different styles working together and think it shows weakness, a lack of conviction in one's own way. But that's exactly why we'll win. Amanda smiled, watching as a capoeirista began teaching a Sistema master how to incorporate fluid movement into his techniques. Our strength isn't in any one style. It's in our ability to take the best from everything we've learned across thousands of years of combat evolution. The day continued, and the transformation of their warriors was remarkable. They moved differently now, each one carrying hints of every style they'd encountered. They were becoming something more than just fighters. They were living embodiments of humanity's entire martial heritage. That evening, as the warriors gathered for their nightly meditation session, another hybrid tradition they created, Katie sat next to her mother. "Do you think the Mrekth understand what they're really facing?" she asked. Amanda watched as former enemies shared techniques, as ancient traditions merged with modern innovation, as humanity's greatest warriors set aside ego to become something greater than themselves. "No," she replied softly. "They think they're facing Earth's strongest fighters. But they're really facing every warrior, every teacher, every student who's ever stepped onto a mat or into a ring. They're facing humanity's entire warrior spirit, distilled into one team." And in that moment, watching Earth's champions move in perfect harmony, Amanda knew they had a chance, not because they were stronger or faster, but because they had already achieved something the Mrekth couldn't comprehend. They had become living proof that the true warrior's path wasn't about being the best. It was about never stopping the journey to improve. The arena materialized in neutral space, a massive crystalline structure suspended between Earth and lunar orbit. Amanda stood in the observation deck, Katie pressing her face against the transparent aluminum as the first human transport approached. "They look so calm," Katie whispered, watching Earth's warriors emerge in their simple white gis. No flags, no national emblems, just clean white uniforms that represented all of humanity. The Mrekth champions arrived moments later, their chitinous forms towering over the human delegation. As agreed, they wore no armor or enhancements, but their natural biology was intimidating enough. Each stood nearly 9 feet tall, their exoskeletons gleaming like polished obsidian. The first match, the alien commander's voice resonated through the arena, will be open combat. No weapons, no restrictions except unconsciousness or surrender. Amanda felt her heart sink as she saw their first champion step forward. Even by Mrekth standards, this warrior was enormous. Across the arena, Rodriguez was preparing to represent Earth, looking almost childlike in comparison. "Mom." Katie grabbed her arm. "Rodriguez is smiling." Why is he smiling? Indeed, the Force Recon veteran had a serene expression as he bowed to his opponent. The Mrekth warrior, confused by the gesture, hesitated before awkwardly inclining its head. The match began. The Mrekth champion charged with devastating speed, mandibles spread wide in a battle cry. Rodriguez didn't move, maintaining his ready stance. At the last possible moment, he shifted, a subtle movement Master Chen had taught him. And the alien's charge met empty air. What followed was a masterclass in humanity's new hybrid fighting style. Rodriguez moved like water, combining Chen's Tai Chi principles with his combat training. Every time the Mrekth warrior struck, Rodriguez wasn't there. When he countered, it was with techniques borrowed from a dozen different styles. "Impossible," the Mrekth commander hissed as his champion grew visibly frustrated. "No single warrior can know so many forms." But Rodriguez wasn't fighting alone. In his movements, Amanda could see traces of every master who had trained at the station. A shoulder throw from the judo expert, footwork from the boxer, joint manipulation from the aikido master, all flowing together in perfect harmony. The end came suddenly. The Mrekth champion, enraged by its inability to land a solid blow, overextended on a strike. Rodriguez moved inside its guard, combining a Muay Thai elbow strike with a system pressure point technique. The alien warrior, for all its size and strength, folded like paper. Silence filled the arena. Rodriguez helped his fallen opponent up, bowed again, and walked calmly back to the human section. The Mrekth commanders chittered furiously among themselves. "They don't understand," Venera said, scales shifting with excitement. "They expected primitive techniques. But this is evolution in action." The second match began before the Mrekth could fully process what had happened. This time, their champion faced Sarah Chen, Master Chen's daughter, and a pioneer in combining traditional kung fu with modern mixed martial arts. The alien warrior, learning from its predecessor's mistake, approached more cautiously. Sarah responded with a display of technical precision that had Katie bouncing with excitement. "Look, Mom, she's using the combination we developed, the one where capoeira movement sets up for Wing Chun strikes." The match was shorter than the first. Sarah's opponent, focused on defending against strikes, never saw the Brazilian jiu-jitsu sweep that took its legs. The follow-up submission hold, adapted specifically for Mrekth physiology, ended the contest in seconds. 2 matches, 2 victories. The Mrekth commander's hologram flickered with barely contained rage. This is not possible," he sputtered. "You are primitives. Your combat techniques should be rigid, unchanging." Amanda stepped forward, Katie at her side. "That's where you made your mistake. You thought our love of traditional combat meant we were stuck in the past. But human martial arts have always been about evolution, about taking what works and making it better." She watched as Earth's warriors celebrated together, each victory belonging to all of them. In their success, she saw humanity's greatest strength, not the ability to fight, but the wisdom to learn from every fighter who came before. The Mrekth had wanted to face primitive warriors. Instead, they were witnessing the birth of something entirely new, a fighting style that contained the wisdom of every combat art humanity had ever created. And they were only just getting started. 2 matches remained in the tournament, with humanity leading 3-1. The Mrekth commander's hologram flickered with barely contained fury as his warriors huddled, chittering in their native tongue. Something had changed in their demeanor. Gone was the arrogant superiority, replaced by something Amanda recognized from countless combat situations: desperation. "Mom," Katie's voice was tense. "They're going to try something. Look at their mandibles. They're doing that thing, like when we caught them scanning our training sessions." Amanda nodded, already reaching for her communicator. But before she could alert security, alarms blared throughout the station. On the primary display, 3 Mrekth assault pods had breached the lower hull. Disqualification. The Earth delegation erupted in protest. They violated the sacred terms of combat. The Mrekth commander's hologram grew larger, mandibles spreading wide. "We invoke the right of superior force. Your primitive concepts of honor are meaningless before." His words cut off as a new sound filled the arena. Laughter. Deep, genuine laughter, coming from the human section. Master Chen, the eldest of Earth's warriors, had stepped forward, still chuckling. "Forgive me," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence. "But you have made a profound tactical error." The invasion alarms suddenly ceased. On the security feeds, Amanda watched with pride as the Mrekth boarding parties lay unconscious or restrained. The station's minimal security detail had been anything but. Veteran Special Forces operators from a dozen nations had been waiting, prepared for exactly this betrayal. "You see," Chen continued, addressing the furious commander, "while you watched our champions train, while you focused on our obvious strength, you missed something crucial. Every person on this station is a warrior, even our youngest." He gestured to Katie, who stood straighter under his praise. "Impossible," the commander hissed. "They were support staff, technicians. They were warriors wearing different clothes." Amanda interrupted, stepping forward. "The doctor who treats our injuries. Former Navy SEAL. The cook. Retired Spetsnaz. Even our janitorial staff includes 3 grandmasters and a former heavyweight champion. We knew you wouldn't understand, couldn't understand. That on Earth, the warrior's path isn't about what you look like or what position you hold." The commander's hologram flickered as reports presumably reached him about his failed assault teams. This changes nothing. "The tournament will continue," Amanda declared, "but with new stakes. Your violation of sacred combat has earned Earth the right to name new terms. We demand the final matches be held simultaneously, team against team. All remaining warriors fighting together. A rush of chittering filled the alien command channel. The Mrekth had lost their greatest advantage, the ability to adapt their strategy between matches. Now they would face humanity's full spectrum of fighting arts at once. You would risk everything on a single chaotic battle. The commander's translator couldn't quite capture his tone, somewhere between disbelief and grudging respect. We would risk everything on our faith in each other, Amanda replied. She looked at Earth's warriors, saw them nodding in agreement. They had trained for this, become more than just a collection of fighters. They were a single unit now, each one carrying the knowledge and spirit of all the others. The commander's multifaceted eyes studied them for a long moment. Very well. Prepare your warriors. The final battle begins in 1 hour. As the hologram faded, Katie tugged at her mother's sleeve. Mom, why are you smiling? This is really dangerous. Amanda watched as Earth's champions immediately began planning, different styles and strategies flowing together like tributaries joining a mighty river. Because, honey, they still don't understand. They think they forced us into this position, but this is what humanity does best. We adapt, we unite, and we rise to challenges together. She placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder as their warriors prepared for the final battle. The Mrekth wanted to face humanity's greatest fighters. Instead, they're about to face humanity's greatest strength, our ability to become more than the sum of our parts. The arena's lights dimmed, and Amanda felt a familiar calm settle over her. Win or lose, the next hour would show the galaxy what humanity's warrior spirit truly meant. The arena's crystalline walls hummed with tension as 6 human warriors faced off against the remaining Mrekth champions. The aliens had chosen their largest, most aggressive fighters, each one looking more like a living weapon than a martial artist. Remember, Rodriguez called out to his teammates, flow like water, strike like thunder. Amanda watched from the observation deck as both teams took their positions. The human warriors wore their simple white gis, while the Mrekth stood bare-chested, their natural armor gleaming under the arena lights. Katie pressed against the window, knuckles white with tension. Begin. The command echoed through the chamber. What followed wasn't just a fight. It was a demonstration of everything humanity's warrior spirit represented. The Mrekth attacked as individuals, each seeking their own glory. Earth's champions moved as one, their different styles weaving together like a deadly dance. Sarah Chen flowed through a group of opponents, her kung fu movements setting them up for Rodriguez's devastating throws. The Israeli Krav Maga expert and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master worked in perfect tandem, one creating openings that the other exploited instantly. Look at their faces, Venra whispered, scales shifting through colors of amazement. The Mrekth, they're afraid. It was true. The alien warriors had never faced anything like this. When they focused on blocking strikes, they were swept off their feet. When they defended against grappling, they were struck from unexpected angles. Every human technique flowed seamlessly into another, different styles combining in ways that made them impossible to predict. But the Mrekth were still incredibly dangerous. A sudden counterattack sent 2 human warriors flying. The aliens pressed their advantage, mandibles spread in victory cries. Get up, Katie whispered, pressing closer to the window. Please get up. The fallen warriors did more than that. They rose together, bloody but unbowed, and rejoined the fight with undiminished spirit. The Mrekth hesitated, clearly confused. In their culture, showing weakness was unforgivable. The concept of fighting on despite injury, of drawing strength from adversity, was alien to them. That's it, Amanda realized aloud. That's what they never understood about us. The battle reached its crescendo. 5 Mrekth warriors remained standing against 4 humans. The aliens had size, strength, and natural armor on their side. But as Amanda watched her fellow humans move with perfect coordination, She knew it wouldn't be enough. Rodriguez took a heavy hit, but turned the momentum into a throw that Master Chen had taught him. Sarah Chen used a technique borrowed from capoeira to evade a strike, flowing into a submission hold learned from the jiu-jitsu master. Each human fighter moved with the knowledge and spirit of all the others, while the Mrekth fought alone. The end came suddenly. The alien warriors, frustrated by their inability to land decisive blows, broke formation to launch individual attacks. It was exactly what Earth's team had trained for. In a sequence of movements that combined a dozen different martial arts, they systematically dismantled their larger opponents. The final Mrekth warrior fell to a technique that hadn't existed 2 weeks ago, a combination of Aikido redirection, Muay Thai striking, and wrestling control that could only have emerged from humanity's unique ability to adapt and evolve. Silence filled the arena. Then, slowly, Earth's warriors helped their fallen opponents to their feet. They bowed, offering respect even in victory. Some of them Mrekth, learning perhaps their first lesson in humility, bowed back. "I understand now." The Mrekth commander's hologram appeared, its voice carrying a new tone. "We thought your attachment to martial traditions made you primitive. Instead, it made you extraordinary." Amanda felt Katie's hand slip into hers as the commander formally acknowledged humanity's victory. But the real triumph wasn't just in winning the tournament. It was in showing the galaxy something that even humans sometimes forgot. That true strength doesn't come from being the biggest or the strongest, but from the ability to learn from each other, to rise above differences, and to face challenges not as individuals, but as one. As Earth's warriors celebrated together, their different styles and traditions now forever intertwined, Amanda knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had shown the stars what their warrior spirit truly meant, and the galaxy would never be the same. After all, they weren't just fighters anymore. They were living proof that the greatest victories come not from defeating others, but from bringing out the best in each other.